It's been a while since we've had a show about video games, Mike.
Yeah, we've been doing movies for the past however many weeks, like 12 now. What's the last game we talked about?
Maybe The Last of Us. No, yeah, it might be. It might be like it was a while ago where we did like a scary one.
Super long ago.
I know.
Anyway,
it's been a while.
That's Mary Kish, Dead Air co-host. I'm Mike Mahardy, Dead Air host, co-host. Rob Handlery, your co-host Rob Handlery. This is your third time on?
Who's counting?
I am. It's your third time on.
Okay.
No, we figured we'd get back to talking about games for a little while. There's nothing immediately pressing in terms of releases and everything. I know like a lot of our audience comes here for movie discussions and whatnot. We did Halloween, we did 28 Days Later. We'll probably do. I was looking on the calendar for when the next Friday the 13th is. It's not until like end of January, so we might just have to do that before an actual Friday the 13th rolls around. But then we're gonna be screwed on that Friday the 13th. But that's also the week Resident Evil 7 releases, which kind of brings me back. I want to talk about games like the upcoming horror games that we're most excited about, whether they're coming out really soon or just like don't even have a release date, which a lot of those, that's the case with a lot of them. Mary, you made this list because you did like a feature video recently, right? During Halloween?
Yeah, I did. I did like, I try to do this every year around October where I talk about like the best upcoming horror games to come. And then within like, of course, as soon as I release it, then there's a new trailer for something amazing or something that I missed that I'm like, why didn't I put that in? Like I put Routine in last year, but this year they didn't have an updated trailer, so I didn't put them in. And then as soon as I released it, Routine had a new trailer. It looks really good, which is the one where you're like in space, but there's definitely something else going on in space, and you're gonna die in space.
Yeah, Rob, you don't play a ton of horror games. I brought you on just because, I don't know. Why did I bring you on?
Dude, I don't know.
But no, you've been playing more lately, right? Like between Resident Evil 7, the Outlast demo, just like kind of dabbling.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a scaredy cat. Like, may it be movies or games, like, I can get scared easy. And I think that's what, like, scares me from playing them is sometimes it's, like, just investment. Like, I don't know, being alone in a room at 1 a.m. playing a game. Like, I'm not going to go to bed the rest of the night. And sometimes I don't want to do that. But I get a kick out of, like, watching trailers. Watching you guys play them, like, I don't know, a jump scare it's exhilarating. But so I watched all the trailers that we may be talking about as far as games, and Routine was like definitely like top 2. That one looked real cool as far as some of the mechanics introduced. Like, for one thing, I think that was really standoutish was that it seemed like there were like different types of creatures that are chasing you, not just a nice trope of games, right? Is just one alien. Monster, robot, like chasing you. The one single, this one looked like it was like a robot, and then like a sewage crawling alien. So it feels like you're consistently like changing how you play that game, which is nice. Like different methods of escaping. But the thing that was really cool to me was the gun that the person was using. It was like an infrared weapon that looked like it was able to stun someone. However, the frame rate of it was really slow. I don't know if you noticed, and that was cool to me that it's useful for, of course, seeing in the dark, but just like having that slow frame rate, looking through the viewfinder of it, like made it more frustrating, right? Like because it's harder to judge speed of whatever's following you. Like it was just like a cool little gimmick, I thought.
Yeah.
Just to build off the excitement and the scariness of it.
You're talking about like a persistent enemy chasing you, kind of. And this, you said it's a robot. I haven't seen all the trailers. I saw the release date trailer because they said they were aiming for late 2016, but they said they were releasing too close to Steam Christmas sales. They being Lunar Software, the developer. I don't think they have. Yeah, they don't have They don't have an actual release date yet. But yeah, it reminded me of Mary just finished Resident Evil 2 for the first time on Resident Evil. This Let's Play series her and I do of all the games. Go check it out on YouTube, GameSpot.
Subscribe.
But yeah, we're coming up on Nemesis now, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And that was probably examples before that, but the earliest one I can remember where it was like a persistent threat. The Nemesis itself is the thing chasing you, like unscripted throughout the game. So if you take too long in one area or just randomly it'll bust through a wall like the Kool-Aid Man kind of. And then also, I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, BioShock 2 when it was in development, Jordan Thomas, the lead designer on it, at 2K Marin at the time. They wanted the big sister to be this persistent threat like that, but then they took the big sister, who was one enemy, and started scripting the encounters because there were several big sisters, I think. Or at least it was the same one that you're seeing a few times throughout it, but it was scripted. It wasn't this persistent threat. Then Alien Isolation is another one. But that sounds cool about Routine because you want to stop and kind of explore the space and figure out what's going on, ideally if this is how the game is made. But at the same time, having that like nagging in the back of your head that this robot is kind of hunting you.
Yeah, space is like the ultimate place for a horror game because much like this is often in cinema, they put you in a space where you actually can't escape. You can't go anywhere. There's nothing you can really do about the situation besides continuously try to either remove the thing that's trying to kill you or just continue to run and hide. But there's actually no relief. There's no way to escape it because you are stuck on the ship and there's just nowhere to go. And that in itself is so terrifying. So Routine's environment alone leaves itself for something that's just going to scare you. And then in addition, they've just done a really good job of maintaining the mystery of what it is that's actually out to get you. There's not a lot of story yet. And sometimes that makes people nervous. Like, how do I even know it's good? You haven't told me enough. But, I really believe like there's something really good there that I'm seeing in the trailers. I really love what they've done with their marketing so far. I'm very excited to see what they show next. So Routine is super on my radar now, and I'm just kind of hoping I don't see anything more. I don't want to be spoiled for anything else. I just want to play it when it comes out now.
And sorry, it is March 2017 according to the release date trailer from the other day.
That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Could you judge by the? I mean, all I saw was this one trailer. Have they stated that elsewhere that is the goal of the game? Is that you are consistently being chased? There aren't any.
They haven't said anything.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe that was like.
No, I mean I think
elsewhere.
that's like the overarching fear, right? Is that you don't really know what's going on, so you're just going to be consistently hunted. And much like most games that take place in space, like Alien Isolation, right? You're never really free. You're always going to have this looming presence because there's nowhere else to go. So it would. It seems likely, but no, they've been really, really good about kind of not letting you know about all the threats that are out there.
Yeah, and it reminds me of Tacoma, the Fulbright Company's next game. The developer behind Gone Home, but that is less of a horror game from what it seems. That's more just the like the term now that I know a lot of people don't like is walking simulator, but it's like a narrative-driven environmental storytelling.
Yeah, it has a dark side to it. Their trailers have shown that there's obviously something wrong that's gone on that space station, but I don't think it's going to have the horror-esque feel to it. I would say like maybe Soma might be a good comparison because Soma was all about like science fiction. There's something out there. What happened to all these people? Everybody's dead.
You're kind of unraveling the story through terminals and log entries and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and there's also like no HUD, no health bars or points or anything, or full body awareness, whatever that means. I wonder what that means.
You wear a full suit, and whatever you feel in the game, you feel in real life.
Man, that one moment in that trailer, in the end where he's climbing up the ladder and it's chasing him. God, that like patter of whatever legs it had, like as you're climbing the ladder.
Yeah.
Screw that. That is so hard. Like
footsteps are effective. That was
so effective.
What was that? The short.
Lights Out.
Lights Out. Yeah, the short that inspired the movie Lights Out. That in the hallway when she turns the lights out, you hear like. It scared the shit out of me.
I was just
the rise
saying
in pace. The rise of pace, right? Like
you know
the
it's
momentum of
you.
it.
You can hear it getting closer without knowing what it is.
Right.
So that's March. That's right around. Damn. So we played Outlast 2 for the first time in March at PAX East, Mary, in Boston. That I'm really excited for that game. You played the newest demo, right, Rob?
I'm sorry, which one?
Outlast 2.
Oh yeah.
You streamed it.
Yeah, I did stream it.
Red Barrels. It was gonna be this year. They delayed it to 2017. They don't have like a window yet, but yeah.
Hiding in cornfields and in gross water and in lockers. You got that camera. They brought back the famous camera mechanic with dead batteries. And
yeah.
It's so good. It's got like a really nice premise to it as well, where it's like now you're in a village and there's just like crazy religious villagers everywhere and you got to hide from them. They did such a good job with the first one, but the first one was a surprise. Nobody knew it was going to be that good, and it was so good. So it's like now people's expectations are risen. So there's a lot of pressure on them to rise the occasion and make an even better game. Now people know what to expect from Outlast games. So like, what else are they going to throw at us?
If the full game carries through on what the demo hinted at, the fact that they're kind of going for these different types of horror throughout the game, because the demo itself was like, yeah, poltergeist in that school, lockers opening and closing, freaking you out when you're hiding from this invisible thing that's just fucking with you. There's a sense of like you said in the village with these crazed villagers that are chasing you, and of course that game's like best mechanic is when you're running and you can do the look behind button. You see people chasing you. It's not just jump scares. It's that tension of being chased. Like when I was younger, I used to like run up my basement stairs and always think someone was behind me.
Dang.
Yeah.
Classic.
Or when I used to get out of
Classic.
bed in the middle
I
of
did
the
the same.
night, I would have to jump like from my bed,
Yeah.
so that nothing could grab me from under my bed.
Right.
I mean, of course, now I just like I have this pitchfork I just shove under there.
I have an Uzi. I just like unload a clip underneath.
Rob, what was that
neighbors
zombie
hate
game? The parkour zombie game?
I was thinking of that as well.
Do you remember
Dying Light.
Dying Light, when you did the look behind mechanic and they would be slow mo. And so there was like this like horde of like super infected zombies, slow motion, like about to kill you, and you turn around and go, ah! You freak
Yeah.
out because you knew they were coming.
I think that had like a cooldown or like stamina effect to
Yeah.
it. So like you couldn't just like spam it. But yeah, that'd be the case of like, you run around at night and those volatiles are just like chasing you, and you just look behind you and you're like, how many are actually following me? And you look back, and it's 8 or 6 just like chasing you. Oh, okay.
A shit ton of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Outlast 2, I'm really excited for that. When it got delayed, I was disappointed. But I hope, obviously they're taking the time to just polish it and whatnot. Because,
I'd rather it be delayed and it
Yeah.
be good. I have really high expectations for this one. So
yeah, I don't think it's a
just
bad
be
indicator
late,
at all. I just
be
wanna
late and
play
be
it.
good.
Yeah.
The only thing is I would hope that there are, I don't know, this is kind of how I feel about games where you're walking around, more exploration. The demo was fairly linear,
Yeah.
I would say.
Except for, I mean, like...
Certain parts are
yeah.
they open up, like the cornfield, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of asked to do that, but I like the idea of the first one, right, where it's just a huge mansion or hospital. I felt like you could
Yeah,
really explore
Mental hospital, yeah.
and more seamlessly introduce like levels or like goals in each level, or like I don't know
Yeah.
Outlast the first one that well, but I remember there were at least like the basement level where that huge looking
No,
man
it
hunk
was
of a man is chasing you. Those were regulated, right, between like
Yeah, it was almost... I mean, if you played Gone Home, it was kind of like that, or it was almost like a Metroid Prime. It was kind of item gated, or like there were certain triggers that would let you go into another area. So you couldn't freely explore the whole thing right away, but there was definitely room to kind of wander around. But yeah, because I went down the stairs and saw the basement, and I heard the water down there. I heard something moving around. I was like, I'm not fucking going down there until I have to. I go back upstairs. I think you get a key down there. You need to turn the power on, and then you see a note saying, breaker in the basement got wet. Someone needs to replace the fuse. You're like, fuck. And then you're just, it was such a good way to foreshadow. There's nothing that made me go check the basement out before I went down there, but it just worked out really well. I'm curious. So Resident Evil 7 is January 24th, and that's the game I'm really excited for. We've talked about it a lot. We had Tim Turry on, who's, like working on the title in terms of social media and brand management goes. And I mean, Mary, like you and I, you've been playing through a few of the Resident Evils for the first time. I've loved them for my whole life. I really can't wait for 7. It seems like a pretty drastic departure. I mean, you had the first 3 games, which were survival horror, fixed camera angles, puzzle oriented. Then you had 4, 5, 6, progressively more action in each one,
Right.
third person shooter adventure game. And now you have to wonder if this is like kicking off because of the rise in indie horror that was first person immersion and whatnot, that kind of saw a huge rise when Resident Evil and Silent Hills were not doing well. So like the big AAA horror series kind of had their darker years in a bad way. And then indie horror just made a comeback with like, Amnesia, Dark Descent, or anything like that. And that's why I'm curious to see what Resident Evil has learned from those games and what it's doing in terms of the franchise. But yeah, it's January 24th. We have seen a little more of the action side of things in terms of weapons and inventory management, because at first it was just, that Outlast 2 kind of first-person narrative-driven emotions they were going for. But now it's pretty cool. The structure, we know more about the structure of the game. It's you come across these videotapes or these audio logs, and the flashbacks themselves, instead of audio logs, you go play the flashbacks as these random like short stories. So Resident Evil 7 itself is this frame story containing these smaller short stories of random people that are maybe connected to the plot, maybe just tangential, maybe they have nothing to do with the game. And I'm really excited to see how that plays out, and then how inventory management and these puzzles work more in a first-person setting. So that's coming out before Outlast 2 now.
Yeah, it's crazy like how that's swapped around and become something that we should really be talking about and thinking about much sooner. They've done so much to get us thinking, not just switching it to first person, but they've also added VR. I mean, a lot of us did these demos in VR. It's crazy. Like, this is the first Resident Evil VR. It's such a wild switch up. But Resident Evil is known for switching it up for better and for worse, for both. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important to understand that the Resident Evil series has constantly pushed the bar. You've never seen a Resident Evil that just does the exact same thing over and over and over again. They're always trying something new. So we can't really determine whether or not yet, this is a great thing, but it is definitely interesting. And there's so much that they're doing with it, right? Like they're doing the new the hide and sneak mechanics. That's like basically where like someone's chasing you and you're meant to hide. I think that's quite inspired by Amnesia, right? You have nothing to defend yourself with. This is a huge breakaway from like a lot of the other games where you always have like some kind of weapon or something to defend yourself. The demo I played, the Lantern demo, you can't defend yourself. You are literally hiding behind boxes and squeezing in between walls and looking for things under floorboards. You can't defend yourself. Like that's mad. So they've really gone beyond anything I've ever seen in a Resident Evil before.
And it seems like a nice way to change up like the main story. How I'm imagining it is like main narrative is like you with weapons being able to like defend yourself. But it seems like, or what I would hope out of those videotapes is to see like a different type of system in place that is making you more vulnerable.
Like a gameplay motif in each one.
like a chase like that, or like maybe you only have, they cut off your arm and you have a knife hand. I don't know, spitballing here.
You have an M16 for a leg.
Yes.
That'd be sick. That'd be good.
What was that in?
Grindhouse.
Yes, thank you. I knew I've heard
or
that
Bayonetta.
Before. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, you know what I mean. Like you just being able to like change it up without deterring from like the actual narrative. Like it just seems like a really cool way to like I guess you could almost call them like moments of like downtime or like just having a very dynamic game in general, being able to change it up.
Sounds like it could make the pacing like do wonders for the pacing. I'm also, as much as I like VR, I haven't really been excited for a VR game until now, because this whole game is going to be in VR on PSVR, which is really exciting.
But it's optional, right? Like you don't.
It's optional.
Have to.
Yeah. No. You can just play it on PS4 or Xbox One and PC. But I will probably play through it and then play through it again in VR, because of the horror games I played on PSVR or Oculus or Gear. No, not Gear. I'm sorry. The HTC Vive. I haven't played anything that like blew me away, and it sounds like Capcom's paying a lot of attention to VR with this, and I really want to play it in that, because you played the Lantern demo in VR, right?
Yeah, it really worked. Sit down games with the VR are generally much safer for me, like compared to like actually walking around with the Vive or something like that. Like those can exhaust your brain sometimes, unless they're done really well. Like I've played a few of them on the Vive, but this was like safe. It felt, I could comfortably take it off after like 20 minutes and be like, I could see myself playing longer forms of this, and that is worth looking at. And yeah, that was probably the best experience I had with like a horror scary game using VR. And it's funny enough is we're talking about all these games. A bunch of these, the ones I really liked, and I'll talk about the one later, I'm sure we'll get to, but I like generally was like looking to see if it was going to be in VR. Because sometimes you see that game and you're like, this would be really cool. Like a PT or something like that. Like this could work.
Yeah, I can't talk too much about it, but in like a couple weeks, we'll have an entire episode devoted more to Resident Evil 7. We have a lot more Resident Evil 7 coverage coming. Behind the scenes stuff too, which I'm pretty excited about as a lifetime Resident Evil fan. But stick around for that. We mentioned Outlast, Resident Evil 7. There's another game from Tiny Bill Games. They did Speedrunners. It's in this game, Hello Neighbor. Did you guys check that out?
Yeah, I put that in the video. It's so interesting. The trailer is very
weird.
Very weird.
That looks freaking awesome.
Yeah. It looks fun, yeah.
Of all of them in the lot, it made me the most intrigued.
Apparently, because they're boasting the AI learns. So if you're constantly like throwing a tomato at the window, let's say to get him out of the house so you can get back in, it's not going to work after like a couple tries. He's learned that that's what you're doing to get him out of the house, and he's becoming attuned to it. So it's supposed to be adaptive AI.
Set up the
That's what
premise
they're-
quick. We didn't really.
Okay, yeah. You are a dude in a really nice neighborhood. It's stylized like kind of like a Pixar cartoon almost. That's a bit pushing it, but it's like a nice, colorful, whimsical style.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong with your neighbor, and he's doing something really weird, and you don't know what's going on with him, but he's definitely messed up. And his basement has locks on it, and you want to know what's in his basement. Now, the brief trailer that I saw, which is not spoilery, so don't worry about it, but it's basically like I would watch the first trailer and nothing else. I would not watch the second trailer. They released 10 minutes of demo and it was too much.
Right.
The trailer is basically setting up that this neighbor is doing something weird and you're trying to investigate, but you don't want to get caught. So you're doing stuff like throwing the tomato at his window to get him out to clean it. And then you run inside. You got to try to get to the basement, but it's locked. So you got to find like a hammer so you can get like a key so you can pry off the boards. But if he catches you, and he does towards the end of the trailer, it ends with you being buried. So,
Or it looked, yeah, whatever it is. It looked like you're being, yeah, I guess you are being buried.
you're being killed. So it's like he's got something in there that's worth killing over, but you don't know what it is. And that's it. And I really recommend to not see, there was a 10-minute demo that showed like some more stuff, but I think that's all you need. And much like a horror movie, I've like said this to you, Mike, all the time. They always show too much. I can't stand it. Don't show me, just show me the premise. I love the premise, and I don't think anyone should see much more than that. I hope the adaptive AI is as cool as it sounds. Like, that's the only thing.
And it's not even, there are so many different things you do in the game, which he can learn from. So it's not just like you throwing a tomato at the window. It's like you know, distracting him with the television or turning on an alarm in the other room. Like, you can't, how I imagine is you can't go to like your, basically the game is making you consistently uncomfortable and unfamiliar with like how you should plan your attack, right? Like, because I feel like what could come off as like a trial and error game where it's like, oh, okay, I got this far, let me do the exact same thing and get, you know, let me get to this door quicker and remove the nails from the board in order to get in. That's just not going to work. You're completely like, how I imagine it is like in the moment you're panicking and you're finding a new way to like handle this guy and distract him.
Yeah, I think it's trying to make you, it's forcing you to come up with things on the fly.
Right.
Both with how to get out of there when he finds you, because when he does see you, the music is like, dun, 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 and he like comes at you,
Yeah, it's
like to
messed
try to
up.
get you. So you gotta like jump out a freaking window or like do something to get away from him. But it's pretty wild. Like if, even if he like does get really close to you, it's about deciding on the fly which room you're going to go into and how you're going to throw something in another room so it gets distracting. I think it's meant to make you do things in the moment and not plan ahead, just like you were saying, Rob. Like
Yeah.
it's not meant for you to have a game plan.
Right.
It's just, I think it looks pretty good. I hope it is what it appears to be. Now it is there's builds people can play. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, there's one on the site, pre-alpha, early access. It reminds me, we talked about Don't Breathe, the movie, recently, and that was like the same thing. The basement was locked. They snuck into someone's house. The guy in Hello Neighbor, the game, is not blind. But it also reminds me, which Don't Breathe reminded me of, and this is a deep cut. If you ever saw Matilda, when she
Gets under the table?
into Miss Trunchbull's house and has to avoid her, that's what it reminds me
so
of.
much like that.
Yeah. Like that, you're the home invader. It's weird because, you know,
Wow.
like movies like The Strangers, like Home Invasion. I know a lot of people, like Tim Turry, who's come on here, my roommate, and he works at Capcom. People who have seen like every horror movie, the one thing that still gets them is Home Invasion, just because you don't feel, there's no way you can remove yourself from it once you go home after, and like that's your last like fortress or whatever.
Yeah. Do you remember the one with the deaf mute girl?
Yeah.
And there's a guy who's like trying to invade her home, and he's like, he's doing it over time. Do you remember what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
we talked about it. I don't know why I forget the name of this. I'm gonna look it up.
Older movie?
No, you can like, I think it's like on Netflix or something. But
Hush.
Hush.
Yeah, we talked about it. No, it's on
and
Netflix.
it's
It's
so
relatively
good.
new.
It kind of reminds me of that too, where you're
The
like,
guy,
he's just a crazy guy trying to get in her house, but she's got to find ways
She's
to
deaf
like
and
find
mute,
him,
yeah.
even though she's deaf and mute, to like sense him and like stop him from getting in the house. Oh, it's so good.
yeah.
So they show a lot of like her like kind of POV of like what she has to rely on. I
not
guess. Like
not POV, but yeah, essentially like yeah,
audio
close-up stuff,
and
Vibrations.
and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or like yeah, it comes down to that in the end. But yeah, it's cool because this takes that you're the home invader, but you don't feel safe. So the person in the house is the one with the power, which is not the usual paradigm.
There was one bit in that trailer too that like really made me just like freak out inside, and I would actually really I want to see how this game is streamed and how people like watch it live, because I think it could actually be much of like the guy who was playing, you kind of were like you wanted to punch your screen because he was stalling and taking like a while where he's like, is he still chasing me? Like, just go!
Yeah.
And he turns around and it's a door. This is like where the neighbor who owns the house is like almost like comical, but it still works. Where he turns and it's a locked door with a lock, and then on the right is like 5 different keys.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
he's going. He's behind and he's trying every key. It's like, what a jerk. You know, it's like it's staged, but in that respect, you know, you think you have time, and then you get to these roadblocks and you don't. You got to get each nail out of the board. And that's what's scary, right? Is knowing that he is behind you and at any second he's going to grab you, but you still got to get these nails out of the board. Like, it's that total suspension tension that is like wildly attractive to me. Like, I love that stuff.
Yeah, from a unique gameplay perspective, that game is really appealing. I actually, between that and Killing Floor 2, which I want to talk about on this episode, they're both in early access, so I kind of want to try both those out. Maybe we have an Extra Life stream coming up. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
something
anything, but
that we don't see enough of in horror is emergent gameplay, or basically like when situational things happen because of the player. You see a lot of what Rob was talking about earlier, where it's like set things that have been designed. It's a set path, and when you walk this way, something's going to jump scare you, and the guy will come out at this particular time. But like emergent gameplay is not used enough in horror, or a way to create a situation in which you can approach in many, many, many different ways. And how you choose to do that will completely change the way the AI is impacted, or the world itself and the outcome. I think that's just something we don't see enough of. It possibly was like a technological limitation until now. So very high hopes for that, to see if like the AI is as smart and as interesting as I hope it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I probably poorly said about Outlast, where when you feel like you are responsible for being caught or killed or whatever it is, that is like prime horror to me in a game, right? Like, you are at fault. Like, whatever you did wrong.
you're not surrendering yourself to the script. Yeah,
Right.
you have some agency in it, which means not only can you escape if you're good enough, it means you have the potential to fuck up.
And it's almost the equivalent to like jump scares in movies, you know? Like, okay, yeah, you got me. Because it's so easy sometimes to do a jump scare.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another one I want to talk about quick was System Shock Remastered, which is weird. System Shock, it's weird. Dishonored 2, as we speak, just released today while we're recording this. Tomorrow at the time of this recording. November 11th, Dishonored 2 releases. And if you look back through BioShock, Dishonored, the first game, like Deus Ex, all these games kind of stem from like the System Shock, the Origin Systems days. Origin Systems, a lot of people went from there. Looking Glass Technologies. A lot of people went from Looking Glass in Cambridge, Massachusetts, all those years ago. Ken Levine started on System Shock 2. People like Doug Church, who's been at Valve now for a number of years. Warren Spector started at Looking Glass and Origin. This is the kind of game that started off that whole vein of narrative first-person shooters, or kind of between Dishonored or BioShock. It was also one of the first games. System Shock was one of the first games to use environmental storytelling, like audio logs and messages, and kind of at the time that was huge.
It's also probably, I think, one of the first that had such a crazy AI villain for like the head villain in a video game. I always wondered if like System Shock was things that inspired Portal, or were like basically when it was something that's not human, that is AI, that's adaptable, slowly saying more and more uncomfortable things. Like, I think
Showdown,
like kind of starts out just saying like, what is it like to like feel, or what is it like to, think, and then it starts to like question humanity. And then like it starts just getting like, what is it like, what would it be like to just be drained of your skin, or like to be a bag of skin with no blood in it. And you're just like, well, now I'm uncomfortable, Shodan. Like, you've gone too far. I mean, It's like a pretty slow build of a curious being that seems to get angry over time. It's a really well done bad guy, essentially.
Yeah, it's the original System Shock is kind of hard to play now with very cluttered HUD. The controls are not that great. I know Jean-Luc was capturing and doing video stuff with the remaster. The remaster comes out in December, I believe. And we're talking about that now because, again, yeah, like you said, there are horror elements to it, but it's also just how it tells its story in terms of audio logs. Like Outlast does that now. Resident Evil 7 does. Like, so many horror games have taken that gameplay conceit and kind of like exploded it to tell a story. And now it's how many years out? 22 years after System Shock release, and they're doing the remaster now. So I'm excited to play that, if not just to, because I played the original one. I did a freelance feature on Looking Glass Studios and where all the developers ended up, and so I played System Shock. It was tough to go back to, but I mean, if you played like Mankind Divided this year, if you played Dishonored 2, the BioShock collection, Thief a few years ago, those are all just pretty much spiritual successors to System Shock and those kind of games.
What do you anticipate for the remaster? Like, what do you think will come out of it?
They're updating the controls. They are making it a little more accessible for people who never played it, which I'm looking forward to because, again, that's one of the instances where, like, if you want the original experience, you can, but like the original Fallouts, if you want to do that, the controls are just it's a battle. I would recommend, if you feel like playing in the next month, I would wait for the System Shock remastered for sure. It'd probably be worth it. Night Dive Studios is doing the remaster, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure. That's before like the holidays hit, or I think it is. They said December 2000. Oh, I'm sorry, December 2017. That's way off. Yeah, either way. So that's next year, but still, you can play it. There was a demo, was there not? I know Jean-Luc was capturing it. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, cool. Yeah, we also have for another soon-to-be released game, Killing Floor 2. If you play Killing Floor, if you're a fan of Left 4 Dead, this won't be too foreign to you. It's just like a wave-based kind of survival game with 4-player co-op. We played Mary, did you play the early access build yet? Did you get a
No,
chance?
I haven't had a chance to play it. In fact, I actually wasn't into Killing Floor 1, not because I didn't like it, I just didn't have time, but you know who was Andy Baobao. And that dude loved Killing Floor, and he used to always talk to me about it and how much he just thought it was like the greatest game because you're just constantly shooting waves and waves of people, and it's just like it's got the impacty feel of like a traditional multiplayer shooter, but it's not about that. But it gives you the same satisfaction that you would if you were to play like a Battlefield type game where like the guns are really well done and really, really well made, and they make you feel really good when you use them. But it's about horror, and it's about just a bunch of horrible, gross things coming at you. So it kind of combines everything that I like. It's also multiplayer, so it kind of gives me that like Left 4 Dead vibe that I want. So yeah. I mean, I'm in. I just haven't had a chance. I'm quite embarrassed. I think we should all be playing it and kind of do like a stream of it. I think we should be doing like a multiplayer round with it.
Yeah, it's on PC, PS4, coming out soon.
It doesn't. I mean, I'm sure it's technically horror, but I don't know. It didn't seem like too scary.
It's horror in the same way that like Left 4 Dead is.
Yeah,
you're fighting. You're not fighting. It's not as much about the horror as it's about the co-op survival.
It's just kind of the mindless idea of just mowing down people. Yeah.
And in that, so yeah, that releases I think it's next Friday on Steam. So again, at the time of this recording, it's like in a week, but it's in early access right now, and I know we have we're gonna be playing on PS4 pretty soon in the office. I don't know if we'll try to do a stream or something, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because there are different like arenas you could fight in, different people you can play as, and everything.
Is it? I would have to make the comparison because I don't know much about Killing Floor at all. Is it? So it's reminiscent to like a Nazi zombies or a zombies Call of Duty kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where like you go for long stretches. Like some of my favorite memories and where those games get real tense is when you've put in like an hour and a half, right? And you're trying to get to like the highest level you can, and then you're just cornered. And it's just like you get overrun, and then that's where the panic really pumps in, like through adrenaline and stuff like that. Like, is this the same kind of basis? Is there any ending to like these waves or like how the game operates? I'm not quite sure.
It's honestly, in terms of like the structure of it, it's up to 6 players, so that's one more than Horde. But Horde from Gears of War, you get a boss every like 10 waves. Right. This is structured similarly. You get a random kind of boss character after you kill a certain amount of, they call them Zeds in this, zombies. But yeah, you get this boss fight, and again, it's just like Gears of War essentially kind of
Took it.
like Gears of War 4 kind of, looking at it, and that released just a month ago, looks like they took stuff from the first Killing Floor in 2009 because there's a boss wave every once in a while after you kill like increasing amount of zombies and everything, and that's what when it actually challenges you. But yeah, you can play up to 6 people, so that itself is kind of cool because it's not just like 4 like Left 4 Dead or the like Gears of War does 5 again in Horde, but yeah, Killing Floor 2 is between the co-op aspects. I really like co-op games, co-op focused games, and the actual just like horror elements of it. I'm looking forward to playing that, and that's like next week, so that would
Cool.
I'm looking forward to playing that. And then in terms of co-op and like asymmetrical, like we talked about Dead by Daylight a lot, and they have an update with that. They have certain serial killers they've introduced.
Yeah, they had Dead by Daylight had the Halloween special, right, where they added Michael Myers, and I think they're going to continue to add more. We always thought that one of them was practically Jason anyway, because he was just kind of like this creepy psycho killer that had like a machete, but he wasn't the same. But it now looks like they're able to legally get those people. But I'm really interested in the actual way to play Friday the 13th or Jason Voorhees, which would be the Friday the 13th game, which looks so rad. You are asymmetrical 4v1. You're either one of the 4 camp counselors trying to survive, or you are Jason himself. And I love 4v1. We had these like long conversations last year about asymmetrical games because there was just so many coming out from like Crawl and Evolve, and how good they are, because there's something really wonderful about the person with the power being a human being and not being AI, right? So it's just like giving that power to a person, and how much that makes the gameplay way more fascinating and way more interesting. In this one, Jason is like basically stalking these camp counselors and brutally massacring them. And I really mean it's brutal. Like he's like smashing their faces into fires and like
teeth
launching
off the boards of the cabin, like
macheteing them and hacking them in many pieces. Like it's wildly brutal, which I think satisfies a lot of people who are fans of that genre. But for people who maybe like don't care about Friday the 13th or aren't even into like that kind of horror element of it,
Gorehounds,
they're gonna still love when you get into the asymmetrical multiplayer. Like you're talking about really interesting gameplay, and say what you will, Evolve was fucking interesting. Like it was so cool to have 1v4 gameplay. I loved it. I absolutely thought it was so fascinating. I wish we could do that more.
I think this seems like an easier game maybe to balance, simply because like it's such a pure good and evil type situation. Or I would say, if you're a camp counselor, like you're probably gonna die, and if everyone dies, that's cool, because that's the horror movie. You know what I mean? Opposed to like Evolve, where it's like that's tough as hell, right? Like, how do you balance that game? And I mean, as we were playing that game, I think people could and would complain about like, oh, it's unbalanced, like the Monsters 2 OP, whatever it is. But this seems just like the joy of it seems prime. It seems like a safe asymmetrical game to make.
I can't wait for it. It's sometime spring next year, PS4, Xbox One, PC, and I'm really looking forward to that because Dead by Daylight had the same idea and the same kind of conceits, and I really liked that game. I still play it every once in a while with friends, but this one looks a little more polished, which I think is what Dead by Daylight needs. And in a lot of ways, Dead by Daylight kind of, piggybacked off of Friday the 13th announcement, which a lot of smaller studios will do. Like, there's this game Burst Fire a few months ago that's since been pulled because not enough people played it, but once Rainbow Six Siege was announced, they kind of just made it quickly and then released it before it got released. So I think that's what Dead by Daylight did a little bit. I don't know. That's just what it seemed like. They're kind of capitalizing on the trend. But I'm looking forward to Friday the 13th more just because I want a polished asymmetrical horror game, which is what this, looks like it's going to bring about.
So it looked like Jason, sorry to interrupt, it looked like Jason could like see movement in, like, he had senses, right, in the game, just like having seen the trailer. Like, I haven't seen much of this game, but it looked like when you could crawl under a bed and hold your breath. Like, what do you know? Like anything about what you do as the camp?
No, I mean, in the
counselors?
trailers I saw just the massacre trailer, which is just Jason killing everybody.
Okay,
so I
there was
haven't
more.
seen too much of the mechanics. I do think a lot of people have been comparing it to Dead by Daylight, which is the one where you can like hear their movement. So if they fuck up, like you can see their outline and go chase them.
Right.
And I would not be surprised if this takes a lot of those elements. But what I don't know is, how do the camp counselors survive? Is it by killing Jason, or is it by escaping, like dead by
I think you just have to
daylight?
survive the night. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can kill Jason from what I've read.
I mean,
is it like
if it's
banging?
like-
You just gotta bang.
If it's
in the
like
end,
real
like
life, you
orgy?
can't live. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no,
just-
sex is what gets them killed in the
Yeah.
movie. Well,
you-
indirectly.
Yeah, I guess
Do you
you're
know
right.
anything about
I
camp
don't.
counselors? This is
I'm
what-
saying like round 2. Like they had round 1 and like the end of the movie is like we gotta get to round 2.
I know which counselor you'll be. You'll be the one who's like, oh, hey guys, like who wants to bang first? It's me.
I brought
And then I get
alcohol
and,
and
I
you
get,
pull out 2 beers for everyone.
and then I get kicked out and I'm like, oh, this sucks. I'm like, I gotta go take a piss. And then
And then you get killed.
I'll get my
And then
weird-
yeah,
weird chopped off.
you're peeing, and then all of a sudden the moonlight sheds more light, and you're peeing on Jason's face.
Yeah,
then
and
he
it goes,
just, fuck.
Howard,
you.
your breath stinks. What?
Yeah,
Split in half.
he
And
saws your spine in half.
Your last words are just like, it's so uncool, or something really shit.
Just total
Sure.
towhead, and that this camp.
Gnarly.
Anyway, Allison Road. We want to talk about. We talked about it a lot before. It's just essentially people are seeing it as their last chance at having like a
PT.
PT.
Yeah.
It got canceled earlier this summer, and then it revived. The creators like, no, we're still working on it. We're gonna kind of revive it. They don't have the same publisher anymore. But yeah, that's like takes place in a suburban setting in a house. Something went wrong with the family that lived there. It essentially, we've talked about PT a lot. We talked about Allison Road here when it got revived again. But yeah, that's again no release date or anything. It was in
Rob
August
and I
when it
were
got announced.
talking about some like reservations with it though, because they've had so many like, it's happening. Oh no, it's canceled. Like, oh no, it's happening. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like if my stoke level is as high as it used to be, because I'm afraid that it's going to get canceled again. So my spirits aren't as high as they used to be, because I don't want to get let down.
Yeah.
It looked really PT.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even as far as like he lifts up there seems to be a lot more interaction, right, compared to PT, and PT was just a super demo. But there was one bit where he lifts up a picture and looks behind and there's writing on it, and it says something like, "Dad was such a drag," which is a total line straight from PT.
Yeah.
Like through the radio, you know what I mean? Like, "Dad was such a drag." The first time I heard that, I was like, "Oh wow, this is PT. Is this PT part 2?" Like,
Yeah.
it looked cool. It looked fucking scary, like certain parts, right? When he's in
The ending.
Yeah.
I skimmed through it because it was pretty long, but there's one where he's in the closet, and it's like lights are kind of flickering out, but he hears voices in this claustrophobic setting where it's like someone is in the behind like the clothes. That's where you're imagining someone's gonna pop out. That was frustrating. It's like stereo headset on, like that would do a number on me.
Yeah.
Like, who's that to my left or right?
I mean, that's the tough thing with this game and with any horror game, really. I talk to horror developers every once in a while, and they're saying, like even movie directors who are making horror movies, they don't go all the way with how much they could scare you because no one would watch the movie and no one would be able to take it. There are directors that do that, but those are the movies you see less, and those are like the ones you have to like stream online because you watch it once and you're like, this isn't enjoyable at all. Similarly with games, even more so because of the agency and the interactivity, you can't go all the way to 10 with your scared. No one's going to play your game. It's going to be too hard to play, especially with VR now. VR, the threshold is so much lower for people, like what they can take. That's why you kind of have to, I don't know, like I'm always fascinated with the design process with horror games because you really have to rein yourself in. Like I'm sure like if we had ideas for a game, we could think of like the scariest thing possible, but it wouldn't necessarily make it a good game. Like Resident Evil 7, they have to balance how fun the game is with how much they scare you and everything and how much is actually creeping you out. So Allison Road, yeah, I have reservations as well. Kind of curious to see what that small team can do that's working on it now. I think it's kind of, I don't think it's unfair because it's clearly going for a PT Silent Hills kind of vibe, but at a certain point, I'm trying not to compare it too much to it because I feel like it's gonna be a letdown. I'm gonna be disappointed. But that's just me being cynical when it comes to this game. We have to mention a couple last minute ones. Agony, we saw that long trailer for it. It's like a demonic hellscape.
It looks really nutso. It looks like you're in the body of something. Like it's just wild. Like all the walls are alive and breathing, and they look like they're the internal organs of something large. But then there's jail cells within this body that also contain like horrible tormented souls. I think the whole thing is about hell. I mean, if you ask me, it just seems like it's Dante's Inferno. You're just like in a forever hell and everybody is being tortured forever around you. And even though it was so cool, and it is early on, so we should like be reasonable here. I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It was like a walking tour of hell. And goddamn, it was scary. It was really creepy and like, it was hard to watch sometimes. You're just like watching all these like horribly upset people like being tortured. But I just don't know what I'm doing yet. And without the gameplay, it's really hard for me to make any kind of statement on whether or not I'm going to like it.
Yeah, I think visually it was pretty freaking nutty. But I totally agree as far as that type of stuff when it's, I don't know, like for me, like what scares me is obviously like, for most people I feel like is like realism, like give me a taste of like my own real life and like a what if scenario, I think. It just didn't seem like, yeah, you didn't know what you're doing, but even when they showed whatever lurking beast was like chasing you, like it was so overkill. I was like, what is that even? Like, I don't, it just wasn't that scary to me.
Yeah.
Like whatever that, it was like a naked woman with like a freaking like split face.
She looks like a
open.
clicker almost from The Last of Us.
I don't know. And just that mechanic alone,
Brute.
right? I don't know, just that can get tired. Like I needed more. Like it was just kind of like I don't know how much I would want to explore that area
Mm-hmm. No,
without a goal or
if it's
objective.
not Doom, I don't know.
It's just a little early though because we don't know what the goal is. So it's not that it's a no or anything. I think it looks really intriguing. I just want to know what we're doing. But it's so funny is like that's kind of not fair considering how little I know about routine.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to explore that space. I know they're going to give me a reason to go, but I don't really know much more about that either. Besides exploring a very creepy space that's probably going to harm you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess routine at least had narrative somewhere. Like you got
what's
taste
going on
of
with
that.
gameplay too.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to know. Yeah, I want to know more about this hellscape.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what is this place?
Tell me more
Goes
about
on
this
there.
hell.
Is there like a realtor around here?
Show me some good deals on apartments overlooking the bay in Hell Town.
Blood Bay.
I feel like I could flip this place.
That becomes a show on HGTV.
Hell Flippers.
Hell Flippers. Demon Brothers. Take to the framing of your house. We're going to bust this wall out. We're going to make a nice blood fountain here. It's going to really tie the room together.
My brother's acting kind of like a dick. He like is trying to take like 50-50 when I totally did more like the legwork on this like deal. So, okay.
You said this pool was lagoon-like. I don't think there's anything lagoon-like about this pool.
If by lagoon you mean littered with dead bodies, that's what I meant. And then the last game I wanted to touch on is Narcosis. Mary, I played a demo back at GC earlier this year.
Yeah,
it's
super scary.
The first game from Honor Code developer. It's less horror focused than I thought going into it.
Yeah.
It is worth bringing up though because the atmosphere of it, you're underwater, you're scuba diving, narcosis being the sickness that you get when you like ascend too fast and there's stuff, you're breathing in the wrong stuff through your tanks. And you start hallucinating, and in the game you're hallucinating. You go into this one room and there's a bunch of like diving suits on the other wall. It's a dead end. You turn around, the door that you came in through is gone. You keep spinning in a circle. You're in this enclosed room now.
I'm getting a lot of Sphere vibes.
Yeah, that's a great thing to consider. I think maybe that's like a part of what was so scary about it was there's multiple things to be afraid of. There's the narcosis itself, so you're hallucinating, you're being really weird. There's the actual legitimate fear that you're underwater and you will not have enough resources to survive there forever. So you need to get to the surface immediately. And then there's also imminent threats. There's underwater sea life. Oh, there's like spiders, like the underwater spiders.
Crap.
I don't know. They look like spiders. They're horrible little creatures.
Yeah, those things are weird.
And I hate them.
You
And
just hit them with something.
also squids, the squids that have like that one little claw in the center of their being. I want to get into
You're
it.
thinking of a seahorse.
No.
you're doing a
I'm
seahorse.
not.
Yeah.
No, it's the claw in the hole of their center.
Tooth?
They're Galgamex. Yes. And it's like,
Galgamex?
yeah.
What are you,
South Park.
Oh, that's why. I thought you were being like a...
Oh, yeah. He's like, I think with the wrong sound.
How, it's got rows of razor sharp teeth. How are we supposed to have sex with that?
That's right.
Anyway, it's gross. And the point is there's imminent threats and then there's threats on the far horizon. And there's more than enough to upset you. So it has a little bit more. I have to go back again to Soma. It's got that vibe because it has walking sim like elements to it, right? You're like constantly, as you walk, there is a voice that is you, like your head, thinking and speaking to yourself in your own head. And you're kind of processing what's happened to you and what's going on and what happened in your life before this that got you to this place. So there's like a lot to uncover in terms of like the story and what's going on. But then oh man, there's jump scares without a doubt. Like anytime like a squid comes out of nowhere, or you're like running out of oxygen tanks all the time, or you're turning around and all of a sudden you're in a completely different space than you thought you were. I was like in a cave and like all of a sudden there was like a fucking clock down there and I was like, all right, I'm hallucinating now. And it's just like that shit really messes with you. I think it's a really interesting game. Also, it's in VR. I don't think I mentioned that, but the VR aspect of it is also just mind blowing because you can hear all the water around you and it's just very immersive and upsetting.
It's funny, I was looking at that video and I stumbled upon you guys did a piece on that, having your VR experience with it. And how you guys described it was actually like really convincing and happy to hear that. That's the problem with like sit down games with walking in VR is that, you're kind of battling your brain with like two different forms of look. If you have a controller in your hand, it's like sometimes you're just. And Resident Evil, the demo we did, was kind of the same way, but it still worked because you're doing kind of like fine tuning with your head. And doing more of the like overall like main 360 looking with the controller. It's how I was playing it at least. But this one, you guys sold me on like how the mechanic of like your suit is one entity of movement, and then the rest is you in a body, almost like the equivalent to why I think
space games work.
Cockpit games, driving.
Did you play Adrift?
No, I did not.
I reviewed that earlier this year. It's kind of like Narcosis in space. You're going through that derelict space station that blew up at some point or another.
It's just that it lends itself to VR because instead of like when you're walking, you feel like you should have that walking feel.
Yeah.
But when you're in a cockpit or when you're in a suit, like this one, you use jet propulsions to like move you through the water. You're like, this makes sense for why I feel floaty and I don't feel the steps of movement. That makes more sense. So there's less. There's more immersion. It kind of just like doesn't take you out of the game as easily.
They should just make a game where you put earplugs in and someone like trickles dirt on your face, but you're getting buried alive in the game.
Oh,
because you're not moving; you're just lying there.
That'd be fun
for like 6 hours. You beat the game if you can lie still for 17 hours.
Or it's like, how long can you scratch and tear the wood on the coffin without, like before your arms get tired?
Yeah,
that'd be a good workout game. They should put that on like some kind of like workout training.
You start singing your favorite song to maintain your sanity.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be sick.
That'd be tight.
We should develop VR games. No, it'd be awful. I think we've run the gamut of upcoming horror games. Mary's giving me the wrap up thing, which she does a lot more recently. Cool. So yeah, those kind of, we just ran through a bunch of ones that are either apparently some are coming out December of next year. So don't keep an eye out for System Shock Remastered anytime soon, although there's a demo out. You can play that. And then a lot of these are early access. I kind of want to go play Hello Neighbor today. Killing Floor 2 releases in a week as of this episode publishing. Yeah, I'm excited for all these. Rob, you going to get into more horror games now?
Yeah.
Hello Neighbor.
Hello Neighbor looks pretty insane. A lot of these games I am excited to see streams of, like whether it be you guys or myself, like in general just streams. Do
you watch streams of yourself often?
No, what I meant by that is like me streaming it. Seems like it could be fun.
Yeah.
All around, it's a cool live experience, Mary. Do you watch streams of yourself a lot?
Yeah.
You archive it and then just like dissect it right afterward?
Yeah.
Should have blinked less here.
Right.
I say that as someone who blinks a lot.
He doesn't blink. He's got like a film in between his eyelids and his eyes. And it
gave her the fucking wrap-up signal.
Constantly.
Fuck you.
People didn't see it.
Cool.
I cut away from it.
Damn it, that's Rob. Anyway, cool. So as always, thanks for coming and hanging out. If you're watching on YouTube and GameSpot, thanks for watching us. This is our third video episode. If you're on iTunes, thank you for listening. As always, you can email us at deadair@gamespot.com. You can tweet at us, Rob Handlery, Mike Mahardy, Mary Kish. Questions, suggestions, concerns. Give us a review on iTunes if you want. And that helps us out. And of course, like I said, we have a lot more Resident Evil 7 stuff coming up in the coming weeks, which I'm pretty excited about. I will not be here next week if you do an episode, Mary, in my absence. But I'm looking forward to
I could do that.
Coming back from a trip I'm going on to talk more about
mystery stuff that we can't talk about right now.
Sure. Anyway, we will see you all next week.